You are listening to High Heels and High Chairs, voted the best online resource for busy moms who wish to stay strong, sexy, and centered in a world of spit up and sippy cups. Whether you're a new mom, a grandmom, a future mom, or somewhere in between, you'll love these priceless tips, tricks, and tools you will learn today. Here is your host, top female fat loss and hormone specialist, Dr. Michelle Sands.
Hi, mamas. Welcome back to High Heels and High Chairs. We're talking about staying strong, sexy, and centered in a world of sit-up and sippy cups. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Sands, and today I have an awesome guest. She is Heather Deranga, and she is the Nutrition Vixen. That's what we call her. That's what she's known as, and that's also the name of her website. And Heather she's just an awesome lady. She is beautiful and smart, and she really gets it. She's a registered dietitian, and she looks at nutrition a little bit differently than a lot of the other dietitians and nutritionists that you might hear from, even some of the ones that you've heard from on this series. And Heather looks at it more from like an approach of like developing healthy habits, having certain skills, and being adaptable to different situations. And so she doesn't tell you to count calories. You're not going to count points. You're not going to count grams of fat. You're not going to be measuring everything and weighing everything. It's more about learning how to kind of be intuitive about your food and know it's healthy and know it's good for you and understand how much your body needs. So this is why I wanted Heather here on the summit, because I wanted it to contrast with some of the other nutrition experts who might be telling you that you need a plan, because I think Heather has like a whole life plan. So Heather, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. Thank you so much, Michelle, for inviting me. I'm really excited to be a part of this summit. I absolutely love your tagline. It's fabulous and kind of embodies everything Nutrition Vixen is all about. So I'm really excited to have some dialogue with you today and be able to hopefully present some informative, fun information to your listeners.
Awesome. So, Heather, before we get into the topic, I just wanted you to give a little background on who you are and how you became to be the Nutrition Vixen that you are.
Fabulous. So I was actually, what got me interested in nutrition, when I was 18 years old, I was diagnosed with a kidney disease. And so at that time, I was not a full-time student, got kicked off my parents' health insurance, and kind of had to scramble for myself. Got married, had a baby, ended up having to go through clinics and having some really terrible experiences and became very unhealthy. My energy levels were just really poor. I was tired and fatigued all the time. I had a little baby that I really had a difficult time tending to. And so I came to the conclusion that I needed to get a handle on what was going on with my health so that I could be a good mom and be around and not have to be on dialysis or worry about a kidney transplant. So that's kind of where my passion for knowledge and my pursuit for knowledge began. I went to the library, checked books out, read them. Back in that time, we didn't have Google, and unfortunately, I had to be a little more proactive. So I was a stay-home mom and was able to start incorporating things that I was learning, and I started to feel better. And as I started to feel better, that motivated me to want to learn more about my body and how it was working and how the things that I put in my body impacted my overall health, my energy levels, my mood, and my ability to be a good mom and a good wife and run a business and do all of the fabulous things that we set out to do. And so when my youngest daughter went to kindergarten, that's when I decided to go ahead and pursue a career in nutrition. And I decided that I was going to go the route of becoming a dietitian, even though I opposed pretty much majority of the concepts that they were teaching us through the curriculum. And so I worked very hard to go through school, get my undergrad in dietetics, knowing that once I became a licensed dietitian, I would be able to have the ability to share the truth with individuals when it comes to nutrition and trying to protect our health and, reduce risk of disease, et cetera. But I also went on and got my master's in multidisciplinary health communications. And this specializes more in the behavioral theory component of it. So really getting to the root of why people have difficulty with being able to achieve sustainable lifestyle behaviors. So I really feel like the combination of my nutrition background along with the psychology component is really what makes me very viable as a dietitian or as a nutrition professional with getting people motivated to be able to make sustainable change and acquire a better quality of life. So I absolutely love what I do. I've lived it firsthand, and so I'm very passionate about it because I know the benefits that come from being able to just change some simple behaviors as well as, the benefits that you get from it. And at almost 40 years old, I wake up every morning feeling incredible, and I just feel like the whole world should feel like I feel. And it makes me sad when I talk to my clients and, they're sometimes in their early 20s and they wake up fatigued and so tired and they never have consistent energy and these just ridiculous cravings all the time. No one should be walking around feeling like that. We go to the doctor and the doctor says, this is just part of the aging process. Well, I'm here to call it BS. It's not part of the aging process. That's not how we're supposed to feel. But we do have to take, our health into our own hands and be proactive at being able to own how we want to wake up and feel every morning.
Yeah, I totally agree. And not only do you feel fabulous, but you look fabulous. So if anyone wants to go to nutritionvixen.com and look at some of her gorgeous photos, she is just dolled up and just beautiful, and you're really making it sexy and beautiful. And so I love that about you. You're not just a boring nutritionist behind a desk. You actually are living the life. You're looking beautiful, feeling beautiful, and encouraging and empowering other women to do the same. That's why I really feel connected with you.
Absolutely. That's where part of the nutrition vixen persona comes in. We have to make nutrition somewhat sexy in order for it to be inviting and encourage people to want to make some changes. And so I feel that every woman, no matter who you are, what your body type is, everyone should feel sexy. And so I'm here to try and encourage that and empower women to have the confidence in themselves and really own what they are doing on a daily basis and sharing it with others.
Awesome. So you have a great background, both as a dietitian and then with the psychological component as well, because, there's a lot of, for women especially, not so much for men, but for women, there's a lot of emotion that goes around food. We feel emotionally comforted by our food, and then after we indulge in something that might not be so good, then we feel guilty. So we have a lot of emotions around food. And so I think that, that part of your training is so important. In order to feel good about ourselves and our body and just about what we're eating, there needs to be some kind of, skills, some habits, and some things that we can put in place in order to know how to feed ourselves and our families and to be able to do it consistently. So I love that you, rather than, have people follow strict rules and guidelines and meal plans and count calories and weigh their food and do all these things. I love that you really focus on those skills and habits. So maybe you can share a little bit about why that's your philosophy and then, maybe some tips on how you go about that.
Absolutely. So when I began my nutrition, my healthier lifestyle journey, I was into counting my calories, weighing out my food, counting grams of fat, protein because of my kidney disease and all of those things. And what ultimately I found was that it was really stressful. It was stressful to have to worry about writing everything down or plugging it into a MyFitnessPal or some other sort of application. It was really challenging to try to, take all of these numbers and make them work out okay on a piece of paper. And when I didn't do that, when I didn't accomplish that, it made me feel really bad about myself. A lot of times if I had a urge, to eat something that didn't fit into those macros, I would indulge in it, but then I would do a lot of shaming and guilt of my own self.
Yes.
So I found,
and even not knowing what is in something, like if you're at a restaurant and you don't have a label, like that creates stress.
Right.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, so it's just very stressful.
So I found that trying to micromanage your diet through meal plans and through macros and, journaling, that it was just unrealistic. And I didn't like the way that it made me feel emotionally. It took away from the purpose that it was supposed to be serving. And so I find that I'm a type A personality. I'm a perfectionist, and so it was really easy for me to fall into that kind of mindset that was the way that I needed to discipline myself in order to be healthy. But ultimately, it was really working against me. We have stressful enough lifestyles as it is with just managing our jobs, managing our everyday lives and our children and, our spouses or our significant others. But the last thing we need to do is to start stressing about, the food that we're eating. Food is supposed to be enjoyable. It's something that we're supposed to love and appreciate. It's nourishing our body. So I actually named my cookbook. I recently released a cookbook, and the title of it is called Getting Intimate in the Kitchen. And the reason I chose that title is because when my children were small, I loved being in the kitchen. I loved preparing meals for my family so that when my children got home from school, they had a healthy, nourishing meal to eat instead of going to the cabinet and snacking on a bunch of junk. But anyway, as I got older and my children got older, I found myself getting away from being in the kitchen. And I ultimately, it got to a point where I was coming home and I would grab a piece of deli meat and a slice of cheese and call it dinner. And then I kind of had to check myself and say, Heather, what are you doing? This isn't what you're about. You have to get back to your basics. You've got to get back into the kitchen. And I actually find that for me, cooking is very therapeutic. So in my cookbook, I really talk a lot about setting the scene so that it's something that you can enjoy versus a task or a chore that you despise so much. So there's little things that I have incorporated, like purchasing myself flowers every Friday when I go to the grocery store. And I have all kinds of tips in there about how you can make cooking more enjoyable so that it's not something that you're dreading, because mindset is so important. And we have such an emotional relationship with food, like you mentioned earlier, that we need to make sure our relationship is a healthy one and that we're going to set it up so that not only are we providing really nutritious food for ourselves, but we're also teaching and passing those habits along to our children. If we can start teaching our children and investing them at a very early age, they will not face the obstacles that we face as adults nowadays, coming from the refined processed food era. So if we can start teaching now, our kids won't even have to worry about it. It will become a learned lifestyle pattern, and they won't have the stresses that we have. And most importantly, they won't have to stress over micromanaging their diet through grams and calories and et cetera.
Oh my God, I totally agree. And I think just having the kids in the kitchen, like watching you or even helping you to cook the healthy meals is just a great family experience. And it's so funny what you said about having, the eating experience when we're counting and stressing over calories and grams and points and all these things. Like when your body is eating and nourishing itself and trying to process that food and digest, that's a whole different side of your sympathetic nervous system than from when you're stressed out. So by stressing out over what you're eating, you're actually inhibiting your ability to digest food and to pull those nutrients out. So it's really kind of ironic and sad, that a lot of the problems we have with digestion and other common chronic illnesses has to do with the stress that we're creating. So let's not stress over food, right?
Exactly, yes. What you just said hits the nail on the head. I absolutely love it. People, really just don't take into perspective that when we stress, it's creating more problems for our entire health than if we just start to learn the basics of making good choices and feeling good about those choices versus shaming and guilting ourselves. Things just start to fall in place. Energy levels start to go up. Mood improves. You start to sleep better. The level of motivation, you're encouraged to want to do more. So it's very exciting, and I really hope that your listeners are going to be motivated to want to give it a shot. If there's someone who really dreads following rules and wants to try something new, I think that going this route is definitely the way to go because it's more realistic for our everyday lives.
Awesome. So do you have any habits or tricks or tips that some people listening today who are like, yes, you get me. I hate following those meal plans. I hate counting the points. It makes me feel horrible about myself. But I don't hit my numbers exactly. So what are some habits or things that people can implement into their day or their nutrition planning if they're not going to be doing the traditional counting of macros and points?
Well, okay, so that's a great question. And the first place that I like to advise people, and this is kind of contradictive of not following a plan, but you do have to have some sort of plan in place. So I'm really big about just teaching individuals, what are the right foods to choose. And it's not always, I personally feel that most people have a pretty good idea of what eating healthy is, but they don't understand how it serves their body. So even though they might know what they should be choosing, they don't choose it because they don't understand the importance behind how it's working. So
right.
in my cookbook that I created, the first part of it is like a healthy eating guide. So it really talks about just simple swaps. Like, for instance, if you're going to the grocery store, instead of buying conventional beef, swapping it out for a grass-fed beef product that's going to serve your body better. And that's not a really significant change that you're making. It's just a change of the product that you're purchasing. So I really go into detail.
Yeah.
Yes. So I really go into detail explaining why it's important to purchase the grass-fed over the conventional and how the conventional is having an impact on, our overall health with creating an inflammatory response and contributing to hormone imbalance and et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like if people kind of have that basic understanding for why they need to make those choices, going to the grocery store, spending a few extra dollars to purchase better quality products, they're going to nourish and feed their body, which is going to improve their energy levels and their clarity, just their ability to think straight. The benefits from that are so impactful that then that encourages them to want to start learning more and incorporating better behaviors. Does that answer the question?
I think that some people, they don't know how good they could feel by making these changes because sometimes they just feel tired and you think that's normal and you have, problems digesting, so you just take Tums or whatever over like medication that there's tons of in the drugstores, and you have heartburn, so you take something for that, and you don't realize that just make those simple changes, you could feel tons better. Like you actually don't have to feel the way that you're feeling. And I think that
absolutely
that message gets lost a lot of times in mainstream knowledge, and doctors don't always talk about it. They recommend, you get this medication over the counter, and then you see the commercials on TV, and everybody has heartburn, so it must be normal. So all these things that, like the power to change, is what we have that. Yeah, so I love those simple swaps because the simple swaps. You start with the simple swaps, and then you're right. I think seeing the results and actually feeling the results, it makes you want to, well, what can I do next? What can I learn now? And I think that that's so important.
Right. I really like to take a more simplistic approach. Instead of trying to do a complete overhaul in one's eating behaviors, really trying to identify where their biggest barrier is, start to make changes towards developing healthier behaviors. And a lot of times, maybe it is something just as simple as swapping the conventional beef for the grass-fed beef, or it's purchasing the organic Dirty Dozen, or, incorporating a few more vegetables into the diet that are going to help to balance our hormones and do all of those wonderful things. I think that a lot of times people just try to do too much at one time, and that's not very realistic when it comes to sustainability. So I'm really big about teaching small behavior changes that ultimately add up to that overhaul of our complete lifestyle. And with that, better health and weight loss comes with it. So I like to, a lot of times I have opposition from my clients, and they're like, no, I just want you to give me a plan. I just want you to tell me exactly what I need to eat. And I'm like, well, that's great. But the problem with that is that it's not realistic and it's not sustainable. It's not something anyone can follow a plan or follow a diet for a short time. But they can't usually stay consistent with that forever. So I'm really big about just teaching people how to start incorporating healthier lifestyle behaviors that are realistic for their lifestyle. So, for instance, busy moms, is it realistic for us to cook 3 meals every single day? Maybe not. Maybe if they're working full time, that's not a possibility. They've got after school activities, so that usually leads them to driving through a fast food or, something to go. So with that case, you really try to find how you can incorporate cooking into that lifestyle. So maybe it's a Sunday and you cook a couple of meals, or you plan out a few crock pot meals so that by the time they do get home from practice, there is something healthy that they can grab instead of having to go through the drive-through.
Right. Yeah, and I think that you're right. When it comes to taking the whole plan at once, like you're saying some of your clients ask for, then we're getting back to that guilt and that stress, right? And so by doing this one step at a time, which I love your approach, it's a really a fresh approach that I don't hear from a lot of fitness professionals and nutrition professionals, is, because everyone wants to give it all at once and, here's all your perfect way to be. But in reality, we're not perfect individuals. We're human, right? So
absolutely,
especially as moms, we need that flexibility as moms, and we need to, to role model for our children that we don't feel guilty about every little thing we do. You're right, food has to be a pleasurable experience. That's what it's meant to be. We're created in a way that eating is pleasurable for us because we need to eat to survive, right? So if it wasn't pleasurable, if it was stressful, then we may not want to eat. So, making sure that we're putting those things in our body that are nourishing us from a holistic perspective, I believe. Nourishing us so we feel comforted and we feel happy and we feel peaceful. And I think that by doing those small steps like you're talking about, it really does allow that process and it allows us to grow into it, which is quite amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more about your cookbook? Because I think your cookbook is absolutely amazing. It's beautiful, too.
Thank you. Yeah, so I ended up developing the cookbook because as I educated clients and we discussed food, and what I ended up identifying is that, number one, most people don't cook anymore, and number two, especially females, we don't have the basic skills. Home ec isn't a part of their academics anymore. And so they are actually afraid to get in the kitchen for fear of failure. And so, after having multiple hundreds of conversations with people, specifically women, about their fear of getting in the kitchen, their lack of knowledge, not understanding how to take this basic template of eating and incorporating it into actual meals. The other thing is a lot of people are scared of vegetables. So one of the big things.
He's like, what do I do with these? What do I do with the vegetables?
Yes. Yeah. So one of the big things that I do with my recipes is, we're supposed to be getting 7 to 9 servings of vegetables a day, about the size of our head when it comes to produce. And unfortunately, most people favor fruit over vegetables. And so I found some clever ways of being able to incorporate vegetables into these recipes so that you don't feel like you're just sitting down and munching on a bunch of broccoli or having a salad. I hear people way too often saying, oh my God, if I have to eat another stalk of broccoli or eat another salad, I'm going to lose it. And so it goes back to that whole... Absolutely.
Kids don't always want to eat the vegetables if they're incorporated into a recipe or into a meal. I find that works absolutely fabulous when it comes to getting vegetables. So, it's great for adults. I say kids. I think kids don't want to eat their vegetables, but let's get real. Adults don't want to eat their vegetables either.
Right. Well, unfortunately, kids learn from their parents. So if they don't see mom and dad eating a bunch of vegetables, then they're not going to eat them. So I'm really, really big into getting your children invested at a young age. One of my biggest regrets as a young mother was that I did not allow my children to be as present in the kitchen as I should have been. And I'm going to be very honest here. The reason that I discouraged them from coming in and helping out was because I didn't want to deal with the mess. I didn't want to have to, clean more dishes or have to sweep the floor. And I know that's a terrible thing, but I'm being realistic. That was part of the reason why I discouraged them from participating. And what I have learned is that because I didn't allow them to be as expressive at a young age, they tended to be a little bit pickier eaters. They weren't as, ambitious in trying new things. And so as I started to develop healthier recipes and incorporate more vegetables, I got a lot of, I'm not going to eat that. And what I have found through practicing and working with young kids and young families is that if you start at a very young age by allowing them to have the ability to pick out a new vegetable that they want to try, take them to the grocery store, make that trip be only about that one vegetable that they want to pick. Bring it home. Let them be part of that preparation process, whether it be just washing it or helping you slice it or dice it or whatever, their skill level is. But by the time that gets to the table, those children are so emotionally invested in that item that the chances of them not liking it are greatly, greatly decreased. Most of the time they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And then they also feel really good about themselves because they helped. They were part of that.
I love that.
So I am so big. I had the opportunity last night to work with a family, and I went to their house and we cooked 12 recipes in less than 3 hours, and I had 3 teenagers in the kitchen helping cook these recipes from my cookbook, and they were spaghetti squash. They've never even tried spaghetti squash, much less knew how to prepare it, and they had so much fun, and they were so impressed, and things that they were turning their nose up to, thinking there's no way in the world they would like it, they would eat it, like, for instance, this Mediterranean burger that I created that incorporates spinach, mushrooms, and red peppers into the actual beef patty. They were like, oh my gosh, this has been amazing. And now these kids are developing the skills that are going to allow them to be able to go into the kitchen, be self-sufficient. If mom is too busy and doesn't have time to make a snack or prepare dinner, they now have the ability to do that and also help decrease the stress mom's under. So now when they go to college, they're going to be equipped. They're going to know how to take care of themselves and feed their brain and feed their body so they can be as successful as possible.
Fabulous. Because I often get from moms I'm working with that it's hard to get their husband and their kids on board on the eating healthy. So I love that this kind of answers that question of, getting them involved. I mean, it works for husbands too. Cause, like my husband, like if I tell him that we're going to have like spaghetti squash or a veggie burger, and I tell him the ingredients, he'll be like, I don't really want that. But if I serve it to him, let him taste it and then tell him what's in it. He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. So, husbands are a little bit different than kids. The kids, you're right, kids love to get in the kitchen. My nephews and nieces, I used to let them come in. And yeah, you're right, they did make an incredible mess. But they had so much fun, and it turned into an activity, because as a mom, like sometimes you just run out of things to do with the kids. Like you played with all the toys, you've been outside at the park, and now you need something fun to do. And the kitchen, it's like a science lab to me. Like it's so much fun for kids to get involved. And it is. They learn measurements. They learn like what ingredients are. They learn, like I talk about where the ingredients came from and what kind of vitamins are in them. So like it's really an educational experience for yourself and the kids, because with my nephews and nieces, they like to look up what's in the vegetables and what kind of vitamins there are, and we talk about those things. So it depends on the age and the skill level, but there's so many different ways to get them involved. I'm really big on that too, so I love that.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we complain, the number one complaint when I survey people is that they don't have time to cook healthy meals. We're trying to distract ourselves with so many activities that contribute to our stressful lifestyle that it takes away from being able to really nourish ourselves. And so by incorporating a fun activity in the kitchen with the kids, instead of trying to find a new place to visit that's going to cost money and take travel time, try to come up with a new activity that you can do in the kitchen with the kids that's going to be educational, informative, but also fun. And in the same time, you're going to be able to prepare some sort of really healthy, delicious meal that the whole family can enjoy.
Awesome. I love it. So, oh my God, we're running out of time. I feel like we can talk about this for hours. So a couple of things.
We can.
I want to just go over. So your book is called Nutrition Vixen, Getting Intimate in the Kitchen, and where can we find that?
So that's available on Amazon. You can either purchase it in print or it's also available on Kindle. You can also go to my website, nutritionvixen.com, and I have a spot on the website where it will link you directly to the Amazon book. So it's fabulous.
I'll put a link to the book next to this interview as well. And then the other link I'm going to put is for your free gift. Can you tell us a little bit about what that free gift is and how we can get that as well?
Yes. Okay, so the free gift, I put together a really incredible informational packet about 4 simple steps to naturally detoxify the body. So in order to help improve our energy levels and the way that we're sleeping and our mood, it incorporates those things we talked about earlier by swapping out the conventional for the beet. So I go through and I talk about these different steps that we can take to start detoxifying the body by putting clean products in that are going to help us feel better. And it also has a 7-day meal plan attached to it so that you can get a feel for what that kind of eating looks like. I think a lot of times when people think detox, they think complicated, they think shakes or powders or pills, and we're talking about
cooking all day.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's not what this is. This is really teaching you how to detoxify your lifestyle by just making some, product swaps.
Awesome. That's perfect. It's a great place to start because it's not just about what you're putting in your body, but it's also about what you're not putting in your body or what you're getting out. So I love that we have both of those sides of the coin that we're talking about. So thank you again so much for being here. It's been so informative and just so valuable. I hope everyone listening has gotten great value out of this and will start getting the kids in the kitchen, check out the book, and really start stop stressing about food and start really enjoying it and just have the little habits one step at a time, and we'll all be happy, healthy, and hot, So thank you again.
That's right. You got it, girl. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, listeners.
Awesome. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you received a lot of value out of this interview. I know that I did. I want you to open up to the possibility of making this new year the greatest opportunity that you have had so far to improve your life. This is about breaking out of paradigms. It's about learning the art of living. It is about honoring who you are as a woman as you discover who you are as a mother. It is about taking care of your body, mind, and spirit so that you can take better care of your family and be a shining example, a role model for your children so that they can grow up to be healthy, happy, and successful. I promise to continue to bring you educational, empowering, and inspiring content to help you achieve the body that you dream about and the life that you are meant to live. Stay tuned for more value-packed interviews, and be sure to check out all the resources on my website, metabolicmama.com. Until next time, wishing you a happy, healthy, hot day. Take care, mamas.